What's up, everybody? Christy Vaccaro here with FitLV Fitness and Nutrition with this week's, it's actually last week's episode of Fast 5. I missed last week due to the August accountability group launch, so I'm going to do 2 this week. Hopefully, I'll do it. Anyways, this week's topic is logging in your MyFitnessPal or whatever app you're using. So my top 5 tips for logging macros. Logging your food to track macros. So number 1 tip, log at the beginning of the day, or you could log the night before. Either way, I'm just going to talk about logging at the beginning of the day. When you are making your breakfast, logging it in, go ahead and log out the rest of the day. So whatever you have planned to eat, snacks, your breakfast, lunch, dinner, whatever, and take a look at it. Where do you have missing holes? Did you go way over something? If you meal prepped, you're logging in those preps. If you know you're going to Chipotle, is it Chipotle or Chipotle? I don't know. Chipotle with your best friend, make that decision on what you're going to order, log it in, and stick with it. It's so much easier when you pre-log than just going through the day like, oh no, I just ate 2 of these, and oh no, I'm going to eat this, and maybe I'll eat that, and logging. It's like, I always use the analogy, it's like playing Tetris when the music starts going really fast and then all the blocks are falling and you're like, Just start your day out, log it out, and you already know your food. On Sundays or whatever day, if your last day of the week is whatever day it is that you're doing your prep your snacks, prep your scoop of protein in all those little baggies, lay out your rice cakes, lay out all your protein bars or whatever you're doing for snacks. So all you have to do is grab your meal, eat your meal, grab your snack, eat your snack. You already have everything laid out and logged, and all you have to do is do it. Number 2, probably the most frequently asked question. Do I weigh my food raw or cooked? Either one, just stick with it. Either one. Right now, we're just focused on being intentional with our choices, consistency with logging, and our overall habits. So without getting too in depth with what happens when you cook the food and the weight changes and this and that, pick one. I'm always going to choose cooked because I don't want to mess with raw meat more than I already have to. It makes a mess. So I would much rather just weigh it cooked, and I stick with that. I weigh. It's a pain in the ass to weigh rice and pasta dry, and then you cook it in a big batch, and then you know what I mean? So stick with one. Yes, the weight does change a little bit, but as long as you're consistent and you're consistently logging and weighing the same amount every time, I promise you're going to see results. I promise. Going from nothing, just willy-nilly living your life, to consistently eating the same portions and intentional portions of food, you're going to see results. Number 3 tip, remove your fitness tracker from your MyFitnessPal or whatever food logging app. I know it's really cool when you have all these apps that connect and talk. I have the Garmin and I have the MyFitnessPal and all these things, and they can connect. I keep them disconnected. My watch tells me that I burn however many calories a day. I have a specific calories and macros in my MyFitnessPal. I don't want my watch dictating and giving me more food. I specifically put a number in my MyFitnessPal. I don't want my watch changing that number because it can get confusing, especially if you're new to looking at MyFitnessPal or tracking. You're like, oh no, 2 hours ago, I only had this much to eat, but now it's telling me I have all this to eat. What happened? And then you get frustrated and then you quit. Just remove all the external communication on the devices. You don't want your fitness trackers, your Fitbit, your Garmin, your Apple Watch changing your calories on you. So just disconnect them. Number 4 tip, double check the accuracy when you are choosing, if you type in boneless, skinless chicken breast, double check the accuracy on the selection that you choose for to log that. On MyFitnessPal, I'm just going to keep speaking on it because it's what I'm most familiar with. I, as just an individual user, can create a food and type in my own macros and put it in this database. So that database is just on there. So you just blindly make a selection. Then it could be some Jim Bob user that screwed up the numbers. So if you're scanning a package, it's going to be accurate for them. I think maybe one time I scanned something, I'm like, what? That didn't read right. So just double check. Always look for that green check. Sometimes the verified ones can even be a little bit off. Don't get frustrated. Check a few. Like if you see 3 of them say 120 calories, 8 fat, 15 carb, 12 protein, it's probably right. But if you see one, Steve was logging one that had like a ridiculous amount of protein or fat. And I was like, well, babe, you know that boneless, skinless chicken breast doesn't have, 30 grams of fat per ounce. Like that was screwed up. And he's like, yeah, I just assumed, I just clicked it. And it's like, double check. Number 5, weekly consistency with food choices. So one way to make it really easy, and this is what people hate to hear, just eat the same types of foods for a week. Switch it up next week, but if you're just getting into it, keep it simple. I'm always gonna have kind of the same type of breakfast, and then my fitness tracker just memorizes it. It says add breakfast from yesterday. Broop, swipe, drops it all in. Commonly used snacks. I've entered, the protein shakes that I make. I have one that I make with coffee, one that I make with berries, one that I make with that frozen like pineapple, strawberry, peach blend. And I give them little names under the recipes, and then I can just swipe and drop that in. Super simple if you're consistent with the types of foods that you eat. It starts to memorize the foods, and then you can just easily swipe and add. It's going to save you a ton of time. It's really just the pre-work that you're doing, getting used to it all. And then, oh, he wants me to open the door. Baby, can you be patient? Okay, now I'm going to answer a couple questions. So, one question that I got was, do you count calories or do you count macros? Counting macros will count your calories. So there are 4 calories per gram of carb, there are 4 calories per gram of protein, and 9 calories per gram of fat. So when you are counting macros, it gives you your calories. And to go off of that, I had 2 people ask me what happens if I hit my macros but I don't hit my calories. So that's impossible to do. So when you reach your macros, you're reaching your calories. If your fitness tracker tells you otherwise, it goes back to that accuracy of the items that you're choosing. So unfortunately, sometimes you're going to make a selection that the numbers don't add up because someone entered it incorrectly, and then your MyFitnessPal is just taking the numbers and computing them. They're not like, cross-checking for you. So if you ever do like hit your macros but the calories are off or whatever, just know that there's a little bit of user error, not necessarily on your part, but on the part of whoever is entering those numbers. Back to the consistency though. If you are consistently logging and let's say you hit your macros but your calories are 30 off, you're not going to lose a bunch of results. You are the sum of your habits, guys. You are going to see results if you're consistent with this. Like, we're not trying to, for the most part, we're not trying to enter any crazy like body fat competition where the tiniest little error will throw you off. Like, we are average, normal people looking to learn more about our bodies, learn more about food, learn how to properly fuel ourselves for our day-to-day activities, chasing our toddlers, getting a good workout in, having high energy, being happy, enjoying our lives, living our lives. Like, these little minor details aren't going to make or break your success. What else? Okay, and the final 2 questions. Measuring in volume versus weight. So volume being like your measuring cups versus weight. Weight is always going to be more accurate. There's, a great example is like of peanut butter. If you just use a tablespoon and bloop, scoop the peanut butter versus actually weighing it. Except for me earlier, I eyeballed it exactly. But that's after like 6 years of doing this. But weight is always going to be more accurate. If you don't have a scale, like, I don't know, let's say you go on a trip and your Airbnb doesn't have a scale, but you still want to be like mindful, but they do have measuring cups, go with the measuring cups, stay consistent. Don't freak out about it. When you get back into your swing of things, if you have your scale handy, go back to that weighing method. But anytime I'm, just, let's say I'm visiting my parents for a week, I'll just use their measuring cups and just kind of eyeball it. That takes a little pressure off me. I'm able to relax, but then at the same time, I'm not like going so overboard and feel like absolute shit all week. And then the final question I'm going to answer today is, well, how do I figure my macros? That's why you hire people like me. There are a ton of awesome macro coaches that can do a thorough consult with you and then figure out the best prescription for you based on what you have been eating and what your goals are. A lot of people have to reverse diet because they haven't been eating enough. Some people have different goals. They want to gain muscle, gain weight, whatever. There's a ton of online free calculators. You can use those. Every coach kind of has a different formula. You just have to contact a coach that you think has kind of that best way of doing things. Some coaches are really strict and like, no alcohol, no this, no this, no this. I like to consider myself a more realistic. I provide a more realistic approach that allows you to just live your life enjoyable and still get results. Maybe a little bit more slowly than other hardcore strict coaches, but there's no like crazy transition back into regular life because I'm teaching you just kind of the basic fundamentals of habits and enjoying your life in a very balanced manner. So find a good coach.